All the McKinney ISD girls soccer teams are off to terrific starts this season, and certainly McKinney North is no exception with an undefeated record so far. 6 wins, 3 draws, no losses. The key on that schedule. I'm joined by their head coach, Lovell. Coach, thanks again for joining us today. In the games that you've played so far, a couple tournament games, some non-district games, what has really stood out to you about your team?
What has stood out to me about our team? They are very focused this year. That focus comes from, I'm not sure where that comes from, to be honest with you. But what I'm trying to say is that their focus is, there's a different feeling about this year's team. There's a different aura around the team this year. I haven't quite figured it out just yet, but they're all about playing game to game. They're not worried about the end result later on down the year. They're not concerned about district or any championships or playoffs or anything like that. They're absolutely going game to game this year and taking care of business on a opponent by opponent matter.
You have a good mix within your squad of some seniors, some juniors, and sophomores as well. It's pretty good when you have young players that are that mentally focused. It's not always easy to get a team to be that focused early on.
Well, it's not, and we started out that way to where the younger players weren't very focused. But I will tell you that my senior leadership on the team has been outstanding, and they're the ones that have really, with a little bit of help from myself, but they're the ones that have really taken the focus and taken the young players and really, pointed them in the direction that they need to be working towards. And I'll attribute that totally to the senior leadership on the team.
Last year in the playoffs, you lost in the second round to the eventual 4A state champions Highland Park. It was one of the closest games that they had in their entire playoff run, a 1-0 loss.
Right.
What do you take out from the result last year game, and for those players returning to this year's squad, how's that going to motivate them for the challenges you'll face ahead?
Emotionally, that was a very difficult loss for us because we felt like we were there right there with them. Me looking at the game, I knew that Highland Park was technically better than us, but we played very, very great, very, very good defense in that game. Our shape was awesome, and quite frankly, that's one of those games that still haunts me to today, because it was so close, and it was an opportunity for us. Ifs and buts, if we could have moved on, you never know what could have happened. But eventually, they did get the win, and they moved on and won state.
Of course, this year, you're trying to move on from that, and you've got a team already that's put up some impressive results. 2-0 win against 5A opponent in Plano East. As we said earlier, you haven't lost any games, and particularly here, we'll get to the highlights right now, actually, with the last tournament you've played in this past week in the Frisco Heritage Tournament. 3-1 against Wiley East, and then a pair of 5-1 results against Rockwall Heath and Frisco Heritage. Your team's really now starting to excel, it seems like.
We are. We've taken that game-by-game approach this season to get better every single game. Every single game that we play, we're looking to get better at something. At the very beginning of the year, I talked about and we trained about possession, soccer possession, keep the ball, hold the ball, do the best that you can to try not to force things to happen in any given game. And after the Plano tournament or the Dr. Pink tournament, I realized, okay, it's now time to open it up a little bit. So then we started training towards, not so much keeping in mind that we still want to play a possession-style game, but also keeping in mind that we also need to be creative off the ball, having an imagination off the ball, so that we can get numbers up and create attacking opportunities for our team.
And we'll see that as we take a look at these highlights. Your leading goal scorer this year, Belicia Mendiola, 12 goals already, which is a very impressive number for only playing in less than 10 games this year so far. Why is she such a special and effective player?
She's very creative. She's a technically she's very good. She's very good with the ball. She holds the ball very well. She's very savvy with the ball, but she's also an extremely smart soccer player. She's one of those players that's well beyond her years in soccer knowledge, and she sees the game very well. She understands where she needs to be. She understands what she needs to do when she has the ball at her feet, and she has a vision that is just impeccable.
One of your senior leaders is her sister, Mickey Mendiola, and what is it like to see the two sisters playing with each other, and how often do you see that 1-2 combination turn out on the field?
Well, it happens often. It happens often. Both Mikey and Belicia do a very good job of, they're very close. So that closeness that they have obviously transpires onto the field too, or translates onto the field as well. But they play in different positions. Mikey's a center mid, Belicia's a forward. So Mikey's always looking for Belicia when she has the ball at her feet, and there's a combination between those two that I don't think a lot of people could understand that don't have a brother or a sister that they play a sport with, and I think that's special. I think it's great.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you have a lot of young players, as I've said before, on this team. Alon Khalid is one of those that is a sophomore. Played as a freshman last year for you. She's already had a couple of goals. She's one of the young players. You don't mind playing some of the freshmen and sophomores on your varsity? Absolutely
not. You mentioned Alon, but there's a lot of young players on the team that, if I have a belief that if a girl comes in and wants to play high school soccer, and if they are talented enough to play at the varsity level, and they have good grades and their character is where it needs to be, then I'm going to give them every opportunity that I can to allow them to shine. And that's happening this year as well. It's not just Alon. She scored her first goal this weekend, coming back from concussion. But there's several of the young freshmen and the young sophomores on the team are contributing in a way that has helped our team push forward, because we've had some injuries. We've had a couple of the girls get hurt, a couple of the girls unable to continue on in games, and they've stepped in and have really done a great job.
Tomorrow, in fact, you're going to play McKinney in non-district. Now, you two were in the same district last year. You won 1-0 on one game. They won 1-0 in the other game.
Right.
Your win, in fact, you hadn't beaten McKinney in a long time when you had won that game. Playing them now as they move up into 5A, you don't have necessarily the same 2 games with the rivalry and being in district, but still going to be an intense game. And how bad does your team want that win?
It's still the same. Even though that they've moved up to 5A and they've got a new district to worry about and everything, and I know Alex and his girls feel the same way, it's still one of those games that we look forward to, and hopefully we can keep that game going forward into the future, because it is a special game. It's a crosstown game. We've played McKinney every year for years, and it's one of those games that's special that we look forward to every single year, and I know that McKinney High does that too.
You also have a couple other opponents in non-district, but should you keep that 0 in the loss column through there, you've got to have a district where there's a couple of easier teams in that district. Really, the team that might challenge you as far as trying to put the 1 in your loss column the rest of the way is Prosper, you were telling me. Why is Prosper a team that you feel could be a threat down the road?
Prosper has always played us very tough. They're a team that's very fast. They're very physical. They're very quick to the ball. They've always played us very tough, very close games, 1-0, 2-1, 2-0 games. We've won the last 5 or 6 of them, but it's always been a closely contested match between Prosper and us. And Prosper, looking at Prosper right now, they're sitting at 11-0 right now. I'm not sure exactly what the competition's been like that they've been playing, but you got to look at that record that they have right now and think, okay, well they're going to be one of those opponents that we need to watch out for.
Before I let you go, I want to get your opinion on something that has happened in soccer recently. In fact, it was just last week. Player for Chelsea, Eden Hazard, he had an instant where their ball had gone out of play. Chelsea's down to Swansea, and they're trying to come back, and the ball boy for Swansea just falls on top of the ball. Hazard gets a red card because he tries to kick the ball from out of him so that time doesn't continue to drip away. And in the girls' game, you don't have ball boys necessarily all around the soccer field to go retrieve the balls for you if a ball goes out of play, and especially in these 1-0 games when it gets so late, sometimes you can just kick it and the other team has to go chase it in order to get it back, and it wastes a minute or two sometimes. What is your opinion on time wasting as far as the high school game goes, and how do you approach that?
Well, I don't think there's any place in high school soccer, club soccer, rec soccer, professional soccer for wasting time. I know it happens, and it's a tactical thing that coaches do, but to be honest with you, I don't partake in it. I like to play games. I want to play the game as it needs to be played from the very first whistle to the last whistle. And I want my team to play the game in a way that I don't care what the score is. I want them to play a certain way every minute of every game. And when it comes to wasting time, whether a coach may tell the players to kick the ball way out of bounds or a coach may sub 5 or 6 times in the last 2 minutes of a game, I don't take into that. I don't do that. There's different coaches that do, but it's just I just don't believe that there's a place in the game for it.
When you talked to me earlier about how you have such high quality character girls on your team, certainly that's what you like to preach them as a coach, and certainly the results have really reflected that. Coach, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
As Coach Lance Lovell with McKinney North, they head into District 17 4A play in a couple of weeks, trying to preserve that 0 in the loss column. This week's Dennis Baker State Farm Scholar Athlete of the Week is Kirsten McDaniel from McKinney North High School. Kirsten, a senior, is a member of the Lady Bulldogs soccer team, as well as a captain for the cross country and track team. Kirsten is ranked 4th in her class with a 4.0 GPA. She is a member of several organizations, including the Athletic Advisory Club, National Honor Society, Interact Club, Academic Decathlon, and P Club. Kirsten also volunteers with Main Gate, Angel T-Ball, and the Special Needs Ministry at her church. That's Kirsten McDaniel from McKinney North High School, our Dennis Baker State Farm Scholar Athlete of the Week. Another show in the books here at Sports Talk. A big thank you to all 3 girls soccer coaches for sharing their time with us today. February 12th is the date you want to keep in mind. That's when district play kicks off for these McKinney ISD soccer teams. Did we bring you enough soccer coverage during this show? If not, then don't worry. We have you covered with our boys soccer midseason report on next week's show. Until next time, from all of us here at Sports Talk, I'm Tyler Sloan. Enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday. I'm calling a Ravens victory and more Ray Lewis tears. We'll wait and see. Have a great week.